Primero que nada, ¡viva México, cabrones! ¡Feliz 16 de septiembre, Día de Independencia de México! Mexican Independence Day. Is Latinx offensive? Sí. No, but for real, I do believe that that word is not only offensive, and most people find it annoying, but it will also be considered a slurcito. You know how to say it a little bit more Mexican, adding the ito or the ita at the end of the word, because the rules of the platform, and I don't want to erase those patrones de la plataforma de YouTube. You know what I mean. But I do think that it will become a slurcito, and it's not only insulting towards Latinos, but it's really freaking annoying, most importantly. And I will prove it by the end of this video. But before I show you the evidence, I have to make a little bit of a disclaimer. This is not political at all. It has nothing to do with politics. Nobody gives a flying fudge about your politics. Nadie le importa un carajo por quién votaste. A nadie le importa una chingada qué miembro te gusta chupar. A nadie le importa una chingada qué miembro dices tener o qué miembro te quiere cortar. Nobody cares. Obviously, this is a joke. I cannot stress that enough. But some people just don't understand that I'm just trying to make people laugh and maybe learn something. So no, this is not about your politics, not about your pronouns, but we know what really is about, which is linguistics and the control of the language. Because if you control the language, you control the mind, you control the thought. And most importantly, this is about forcing an entire group of people with your language and your culture. You know, just like our girl Mirna, the voice actress for Primos, said,
"The Spanish language is not a Latin American language. It's a language the Spanish conquistadors forced upon Latin America."
So are they like the conquistadores, you know, trying to force their made-up language upon the Latin American people with the Latinx thing? What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments if you think that leftists are like the conquistadores. But before we continue, órale, hit that subscribe button with a machete if you had to, so we make it out of the freaking gender studies class where they came up with the term Latinx. Because we gotta make it out of there, homie. Let's continue. So the first thing I want to talk about is the linguistics. The word Latinx doesn't even make any freaking sense in Spanish, first of all. I don't even know how to freaking pronounce it. This is Latinx, Latinx, is Latinx, Latinx. Latinx will be the right way, you know. Any average Latino or Latina or Hispanic speaking person will pronounce it, you know, everyone that is not in the cult. And the reason why it doesn't make any sense is because there is not a single word in the language, not a single freaking word. It is not grammatically correct to have an X at the end of a word without it being preceded by a vowel. Always first it has to be a vowel and then the X. There's a lot of words in Spanish that end with a vowel and an X, like phoenix, like phoenix. But not a freaking end and then an X like Latinx. That doesn't make any freaking sense. It would make more sense if you added a vowel, you know, like Latinx, 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 Latinux, Latinox. Sounds so freaking weird. But at least that would show that they research a little bit, just a little bit more about the language and show that they actually care just a tiny bit about the culture that they want to, you know, make them replace the word that they want to use to refer to people. Just let people talk however they want to talk. It's their own business. Because it's about that, you know, remember it. It's about a group of people that get offended if you don't call them by a gender neutral noun. You know, a group of people that usually gets offended pretty easily. Either way, because Spanish is a gender language and you put the A at the end of a word or the O to refer to a masculine or feminine trait, right? O for masculine, A for feminine. And for some reason, a vowel is so triggering to a group of people that they are trying to change their freaking language. Just a vowel. Okay, they are like, oh no, this O is not even two vowels, it's just one vowel. Oh no, the O is a patriarchal weapon of oppression of women. No. No, but for real, what are they talking about? Really? The O. Really? A vowel triggers you so much, and that they think, no, this is literally what they think. They think that it's a form of oppression using the O, because in Spanish, in case you didn't know, and this is according to La Real Academia de Lengua, the Royal Academy of Language, the institution that has studied Spanish for hundreds of years. According to them, you use the O, the masculine, to refer to the entire class, to refer to all the individuals of a group. For example, el ser humano. Humano, human, has the O at the end, which makes it a masculine word. But when you say the human being, el ser humano, the human being, it has the humano, it has the O at the end, like human, it has the O, it makes it masculine. But it used to refer to the entire humanity, to all the human beings, regardless of gender. They say that clearly. They even say that it is not correct to use both the feminine and the masculine, which is used nowadays to be polite. They say Mexicanos and Mexicanas, because of extra linguistic reasons, being polite, they will use both words, Mexicanos, Latinos, and Latinas, when the correct way to use it is Latinos, just Latinos, because that's how Spanish works. That's what the regular rules of Spanish, that when you use the O is the gender neutral when you're referring to the entire group of individuals that you're talking about. For example, when you use los niños to refer to a group of kids regardless of the gender, that is the correct way, instead of saying los niños y las niñas, or the boys and the girls. You just say the kids, right? The same is in Spanish. You just say, instead of saying los niños y las niñas, you say los niños. That's the correct way to use it. And that has been the correct way for how many hundreds of years? The only reason when it's not incorrect to use los niños y las niñas, when the gender is important to the context of the sentence. There's something really beautiful about Spanish, which is called implicit nouns, implicit pronouns, and even implicit subject, because we understand who are you talking about when you're talking, because of the context. So we don't have to be saying I am, you are, he is, she is. That's what I always say. We don't care about the pronouns. Mexican doesn't care about the pronouns because our language doesn't give a damn about them, because we have implicit pronouns, implicit nouns, and things like that. The only time it has to be specified. Oh, you're back, baby girl? The only time it has to be specified is when the gender is relevant to the situation, to the context. When the gender is relevant, then you use both. For example, when you say el desarrollo de las niñas y los niños is different. The development of the girls and the boys, it is different. Because the gender is important in the context, you say the boys and the girls. Instead, you would say the kids when you were talking about a gender neutral issue. And you would say los niños, even if you are referring to a group that is 99% women, 1% men. Even if you're just one boy, you will still call it los niños, because that's the gender neutral. And you can check the link down below, all the sources you want. I warn you, they are in Spanish and they are in complex Spanish. So you better have at least a good understanding of Spanish to be able to understand it. I'm sorry, but Google Translate does not work that good with that heavy vocabulary. I did my best to try to make it easier. Now, it is a fact that it's offensive for most. Now, the reason why I believe it should be considered as lurcito, and it is really offensive and even xenophobic. Well, the reason why I think it's xenophobic is because there are people out there, and a lot of people that speak Spanish, by the way, Spanish speakers, that sometimes they don't know how to write or they don't know how to read. That is really normal. In my country, it's really normal. My home state alone has 21.6% of illiteracy amongst all people from 50 to 100. So it's really hard, it's really hard for a person that already struggles with another language, even a language that is their own, to learn this BS, these chingaderas. Nobody cares. Just let people do what they want, say the language the way they want to say it, give them that freedom. Let them learn the language without these barriers, making it harder for people to understand your language. Or our own language, for that matter. That's why I say that it's not even correct to say things like Latine. You know, the most knowledgeable way to put the word Latinx will be Latine, with an N-E at the end. Maybe that will be the most acceptable way to put it. At least that will show that you have a little bit more of the knowledge of the language, right? But again, the reason why I think that is not correct to do, and that will be harmful to people when they're trying to learn Spanish specifically, or their own Spanish speakers that are trying to learn how to read or how to write. When they try to read, it will be way more impossible if you freaking change all the endings of all the words, because most of the words in Spanish are gender. What they're trying to do, the radical leftists here in Mexico and in Latin America, they're trying to change the gender in the words for the letter E, which will be the gender neutral. Latine, todes, things like that. Amigue, oh, freaking hate that. If you say that amigue, you have to love yourself now, literally. But imagine if they change all the letters for all the gender words in Spanish. It would be impossible for someone that is trying to learn how to read to understand that. That's why I say it's a little bit xenophobic. And the reason why I think it's a lurcito, it's pretty simple, and you can check it out, Google it yourself. In the past, there were certain terms that were considered acceptable, not only acceptable, but the politically correct thing to say, and sometimes even the norm to say, It will be even, those words will be even in legal documents to refer as yourself or how you will identify or your ethnic group or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, and there are words that I cannot say in this platform, so I'm going to be careful. You know what I'm talking about. For example, in the past, before and after the civil rights movement, you will have to put either in your birth certificate or in your social security card or whatever document that you had to identify yourself. You had to put your race, white, and some other words. Some of those words nowadays are not acceptable to say anymore. One of those words is even the color black in Spanish. If you don't know the way to say the color black in Spanish, Google it right now. So you will have to put white or the way you say the color black in Spanish. In official documents, that was what they will ask you. Nowadays, that word specifically, it's considered a slurcito and a one that is even as bad as the you-know-what word. So what's going to happen in the future, in more, in like 20 years? And what's going to happen when in some years, just a couple of years, they start considering everyone, they start putting on the forms, the legal documents, maybe even if your birth certificate, your social security, and they replace the word Latino and Hispanic for Latinx or Hispanics or whatever the term they want to invent. You're going to be forced to consider yourself that, just to avoid offending a group of people. A small group of people. But in the pursuit of not offending that small group of people, they will offend and they will insult a larger group of people that are way larger group of people that are not gonna have any of these chingaderas. None of these BS. Y eso es todo, amigos. Muchas gracias por su atención. Remember to comment down below, what do you think, is Latinx offensive or not? And see you in the next one, primos. Bye.